With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another episode of Single Muslim Live, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com, broadcasted exclusively on Wakefield-based British Muslim TV. A warm welcome to you all, particularly our global audience from all over the world that are tuned in today. We are live on Sky, channel 752, as well as across our social media platforms on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Wherever you are watching, a very warm welcome. As always, you can also be a part of tonight's conversation, ask our guest any questions, give your comments, opinions, and that's by WhatsApping us in confidence on 079 5079 7017. You can also give in comments on our social media live platforms and also pop in your questions on there. As always, you are more than welcome to give us a call live into the studio on 019 24231 083, and that could be, again, just to give a comment or ask our special guest any questions. You are more than welcome to be a part of tonight's conversation, but please do remember, if you do call in, standard rates will apply, so please make sure you have your bill payer's permission. Today, the topic that we will be covering is body image and confidence, and we will be diving into the topic not only in marriage but also in the process of getting married, how that affects our relationships or getting to know someone. And I have a very special guest which I will introduce shortly to speak to you all about that. My special guest works in the fitness industry and she deals with a lot of clients that do face these issues, so we will be getting advice from a fitness perspective tonight. If you yourself have any questions to do with body image, confidence, please feel free to be a part of tonight's conversation by calling in or WhatsApping us. Again, calls also can be anonymous, and so are WhatsApps. I look forward for all the comments and questions that we will be getting throughout the show. And before we begin the show, you can also tweet us on Twitter. Let me know how your day's gone today, what you've been looking forward to this week and for the rest of the week. We're more than happy to engage with our audience, and special welcome to our audience from across the globe, from Indonesia, Malaysia and Pakistan. We're more than honoured to have you all tuned in today. And another pointer, so in the upcoming weeks we have so many other topics we'd love to discover and we are discovering. If you two do have a suggestion for us, if you feel like there is a challenge facing the Muslim community or any topics you feel like are underrepresented or thrown under the rug, I'm more than happy to host a guest and expert to talk on the matter. Just get at us on our social media platforms. Now, before we go further into that, I'm ready to introduce to you my special guest, Nazia Khatun, world-renowned fitness instructor and coach. Welcome, Nazia.
Assalamualaikum. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I love it. It looks so amazing. Here we are.
I know, I'm super excited for tonight's show. Now, Nazia, let's dive straight in. So today we are obviously going to be talking about body image and confidence. And as someone that works in the industry and sees these issues arise, how do you feel like this impacts someone in relations to their relationship or looking for love, marriage, etc.?
First of all, I have my own experiences in this department, which it stems back from a very young age. But working with clients, particularly in the South Asian and Arab community, I've realized how much of a trauma it is for a lot of females that come and train with me, get coached by me. And it's something that we don't really speak about. So I'm so happy to be doing this conversation or actually having this dialogue on a live mainstream platform as well, and to create this topic as something that we need to be more aware of. Body image, confidence around our bodies and the way we look has a huge impact on our relationship with ourselves first, And then the first primary relationship we have when it comes to relationships, the dating game, marriage and everything. And on a day-to-day basis, I hear so many females from all ages, from the age of 19 till about 40 years old. Because I look a certain way, it's actually hindering, it's now stopping me from progressing into the next chapter of looking for a spouse. And it becomes like a mental block. And it's difficult for some females to get out of it, thinking that they will find love because they've got it fixated in their heads that they look a certain way and men or their in-laws won't like them. So it's a big thing, it's a big deal in the community at the moment, and we need to address it more.
We definitely do need to address it, and that's why I'm super excited to have you on the panel tonight. In terms of it creating a block, is there any way you feel like fitness and those clients' fitness journeys have helped them perhaps in building that confidence?
Well, this year I've had 3 female clients when I met them at the beginning of the journey at the consultation, when I asked them the real reason, like when clients come and see me, they've had enough. They're at the most last hope of getting them back on track again. And when I asked them, what is the real reason? What was the point when you said you've had enough? And most of these girls will tell me it's because I had marriage proposals and they rejected me because of my weight. And your jaws drop and you think, wow. And this year, alhamdulillah, due to the program, the way it's worked, the way it's created their self-confidence, the way it's built up their self-esteem and the mental health and loving themselves more and accepting themselves for who they are, they bypass it. It's unlocking certain things in their brains, in the thought process that gets them to think out of the box. What else do they have to offer? What else do they have to give? What can they bring to the table apart from the way they look? And I've had 3 girls that have got married this year in lockdown. And it's been a revelation to understand, like the program is helping females overcome those blocks they've been living with for so many years. And in a way, it's really sad as well because these are some of these traumas that a lot of people don't know how to talk about. They don't know how to express themselves. It's a bit embarrassing. It comes with a lot of shame. It comes with a lot of guilt. And people who are, in my opinion, with the girls that I've worked with, clients who come through the doors, they know they're overweight. They know they have issues. And the problem is they don't have a role model showing them that it can be fixed. It's just a matter of guiding them through this process, helping them, keeping them accountable, and keeping them inspired and motivated all the time to say, you are more than just a body. You're more than just a flesh. And it's really, really, I've done this for the last 10 years of my life. And every year I find myself, I learn something new about these clients. And this is one of them this year, about confidence in body image and marriage aspects. And I was a bit blown away with some of these testimonials I've had in this year alone, the last couple of months. Yeah.
Well, that is so beautiful. You've been a part of those women's journeys, and it's honestly so refreshing to hear. Now, Nazia, as someone that is on social media and you do have a big following, the Mental Health Foundation, UK-based, last year released a report, and it said 1 in 5 UK adults had their body image triggered by social media. So what is your take on that?
So there's so many points we can address here. Like I had an eating disorder when I was growing up, and that was purely from magazines and seeing what was shown on television. We didn't have social media at that time when I was growing up, and I had this idea of what a perfect body looks like. And that perfect body was represented to me through the Caucasian female Western idea of what beauty standards should look like. My parents are from Bangladesh. I'm a South Asian woman. We have hips. We have a bit of belly fat. We have bust. And when I saw this idea of what these beauty, flawless models look like, I tried to imitate that. And it got me into a lot of trouble because, I was starving myself. I was going through mental health issues. When you go through an eating disorder, it is classified as a mental health disorder as well. Now when I've come to seeing what the social media is doing, it's constantly this in your face. You wake up watching social media now. The first thing we do is look at our phones. The last thing we do is look at our phones. So subconsciously, we're taking in these images 24/7, and it's a process in our head. Like, I don't look like this girl. I need to look like her. Therefore, I'm not enough. Therefore, I'm not perfect. And then it starts into a vicious cycle of going on a diet, not eating, spending lots of money on different kind of products that don't work. The diet industry is a setup for failure. It profits out of our insecurities. And in the South Asian community, I feel like we have a very, very toxic idea of female bodies as well. Like, the female body has to be perfect. The female body has to be slim. The female has to look a certain way. Just so when she gets to the age of getting married, the in-laws, the spouse can take her, or, it's almost like buying her off the shelf that she's good enough, with the skin color, with the height, with the slim body, and this perfect idea of what a wife should look like. And these females, unfortunately, they have this invisible pressure from the time they're born, from the time they're young. It's grooming them constantly. What would your in-laws think? Nobody will marry you if you are fat. Nobody will marry you if you're overweight. When somebody is listening to those negative things time and time after again, it becomes an issue. And when that issue is not dealt with, we're repressing this. We are literally finding things to distract our emotions. And eventually, I've seen it happen. People go through this darkness. People fall into the trap of depression. And then you can't talk about depression because it's now seen as a stigmatized topic. It's a taboo talking about mental health issues in the South Asian community. And we've got so much work to do in the South Asian field, and to help one another, just get over this whole idea of what taboo is and what a stigma is as well.
Definitely. And you know what, this is why, Nazia Khatun, I actually have a lot of respect, because you do provide representation, especially in the fitness industry, because we don't see much fitness coaches that do come from South Asian backgrounds and are women. So we do praise you highly for that. Going back to the topic of beauty standards, now we know this does vary between cultures and different regions of the world, etc. I mean, you have some people that do want to become curvier, and you have some people that want to lose weight. For you, if you just tell the audience more about what is the beauty standards in South Asian culture?
Well, let's look at my skin color. I'm not fair, therefore I'm not beautiful, right? This is what we have as an idea of what beauty is. I'll give you my own experience. I used to be an amateur boxer growing up, and I didn't fit into the petite label of what a Bangladeshi female looks like, what the mother-in-law needs her daughter-in-law to look like. I had broad shoulders, and the amount of times I got rejected because I didn't look a certain way, because my height wasn't met to the standard of 5'5".
Well, you know what, Nazia, you're beautiful to me, and I'm sure most of the audience agree.
Thank you. But
there's got something to this.
Yeah, but when you're growing up as a young adult, you're trying to find your own identity. And, we're all self-image conscious. When we look in the mirror, we're always criticizing ourselves. Females are like #1 enemies of themselves. We don't know how to be kind to ourselves. Then we're growing up in this society where we're seen as this product of perfection, and we're groomed to be perfect. And because we're constantly battling against that, between the pressures of the family and then trying to find our own identity, we have this identity clash in our thoughts and our process. So we don't know how to conduct ourselves when it comes to meeting prospects for marriage, when it comes to the dating game, when it comes to marriage. We don't know what traits to look for, because sometimes we are the ones that are filled with toxic traits, because we have so much negativity that's been drummed into us about how to be, how to look, how to behave, how to be all the time. And I think it's draining sometimes, it's exhausting. And it took me a very, very long time to let go of this, what other people will think about me, and just be me. And I think a lot of females need role models to look up to. And in the fitness industry, it's not, health and fitness, unfortunately, is not a priority. And when I come on social media, my main message is look after your fitness goals, because that will look after your mental health. And that leads to how much you love yourself. From the time you decide what to eat, the choices that you make in your life all comes back to who you are as a person and how you show up. Your standards will be met by yourself first, and then how other people actually react or respond to it. And we need to really drum this in, and this concept of self-love as well, which we'll come back to in a second.
I can't wait to come back to that. But you raised some interesting points, and it honestly does go back to the idea of people, or you're someone, will only love you as much as you love yourself. In terms of self-love, I know you have so much to say about that, Nazia, and I'm sure our audience will benefit from it. So where do we even begin with self-love? Because this is something that you obviously will pass by in your work.
Yeah, and I think my modules that I work with when it comes to body confidence and Fitness Reborn was created because I didn't get what I needed growing up. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't see South Asian females, teaching self-love. I didn't see South Asian females in the fitness industry. I didn't see South Asian females, Muslim females even, boxing, So when you are by yourself doing something, you are seen as you're rebelling. And at the time, I only did what felt right to me. I loved sports. It was a medicine. It kept me alive. We grew up playing outside as children. So that athletic vibe was in me from a very young age. And then with South Asian and Muslim females, I realized when they finish education, when they finish school, secondary school, they're not encouraged to take up sports. They're not encouraged to do, sports science at college or at university, because it's not seen as a career path, because we're born in this linear narrative of, okay, you're born, you go to school, you get educated. After you got educated, you get married. Marriage is like the be and all of all our success stories. My child got married, great. They got 5 children, great. And they are an accountant and a doctor, whatever. So at a very young age, I decided, I think I just defied stereotypes without even realizing it. And I loved boxing. And the fact that, it was a big part of me. But I had a very lack of self-love, because when you go through an eating disorder, it robs you of your personality. It robs you of who you are. It takes away this perception of this image that you created in your head to what people see. And I think we're so fixated about what other people think about us. Like, we try to please so many people, we don't please ourselves. We forget that, we need nourishing. And if we don't nourish ourselves, we can't give back to our parents. We can't give back to our jobs. We can't give back to our children, because the lack of self-love will make you do things, and it's all very chaotic. And I think, I fell in love, or the process of the self-love journey started for me when I was 30 years old, which was still very late. And I'm now 37. And I'm still on this journey, because you can't just work on self-love overnight. And self-love is nourishing you and who you are. It's not just about this blasé, okay, I'm just putting makeup on or taking a hot bath or a bubble bath. It's about understanding what do I need? What does the inner child need? What have I abandoned? What have I rejected? And these are all these trauma, the traits that come up again and again and again. And this then manifests in our relationships, because we don't look after ourselves. We forget to heal the trauma that we went through growing up. And this was a very, very important lesson I learned, but in a very, very hard way as well. Because depression, when I went through the depression, I speak about this very openly as well. I stopped boxing. I wasn't married by the age of 30. I had a lot of pressure. I felt like I was a letdown. I felt like I was a burden. And all this time, I used to look in the mirror and I'd be like, I'm so fat and I'm so ugly. Nobody even wants to marry me. So therefore, I must be the reject of all rejects. And I built up this very, very dark story about myself, which wasn't true, obviously, because now when I look in the mirror, I think to myself, well, I don't know what you saw when you were young. It's not like you are ugly, Nazia. It's not like you're the worst looking female on earth, you know? So what is it that I didn't look after when I was growing up? And that was purely down to my upbringing and society always forcing us to focus on other things and not the important things of nourishing us, loving ourselves. And in the South Asian community, the females and the Arab community, we are constantly shoved into this: you're a daughter, you have a career, and then you're going to be a wife, and then you're going to be a mother. There's no concept of self-love for that female. So when I teach self-love on my program, it's really creating the inner confidence. It's really creating who they are, the real potential from within. And then fitness is just a tool that I use. And you know, self-love is such a beautiful gift that you can give yourself. And it's encouraged in our religion. It's like, it's a right that you have. Your body has a right over you. Everything has a right. And, you know, in the same principle, it's all there in Islam. So it's not like, oh, it's new age science. We're just understanding something that's there, but contextualizing it in a different way that people can actually understand it.
Indeed, those are some deep, provoking thoughts you just gave us, Nazia, and thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences. Honestly, it's very empowering, and again, I'm so sorry for what you did go through. You did raise a very interesting point, and this will always be an interesting point, and that's cultural pressures. So you yourself have faced cultural pressures. Now, I want you to dive more into that because honestly, it still exists. The guests talk about it all the time, and right now, we probably have some mothers that have daughters and are wondering, you know, why is my daughter still not married? And what is your response to cultural pressures? How does a female woman deal with it? Like, women graduate from university and expect to be married. So that all stems to some degree from cultural pressures. And if you could just tell us on a personal level how you dealt with it.
Oh my God, not in the right way. Definitely not in the right way.
How would you deal with it now? Now you look back at your past experience.
You know, I know from a very young age, I have to get married. And not being married by the time I was 30 and watching all my cousins, all my friends, you feel this essence of feeling left behind, which is a very hard pill to swallow. And I think I spent more time looking for husbands online than I did focusing on myself. And I did that purely out of frustration to satisfy my relatives, my parents, my family. And every time I went to meet these prospects, there was nothing there I could build on. And we get so clouded with, oh, if he has a house, if he has a car, if he has a good job, then that must be it. Just get married. It doesn't matter what he looks like. All the attraction and the love will come later. And I hated that idea. I hated the fact that we have to lower our standards. When somebody is telling you, like culture tells you, you can't afford to be picky because you're a certain age. How disrespectful is that, right? You build...
Very.
Right?
Very disrespectful.
Yeah. You spend your whole entire life trying to be a good lawyer, a solicitor. You put so much effort in being a solicitor or all that education. And then somebody tells you you can't afford to be picky when it comes to your spouse. And this is why I think so many of us, because we're not picky with our spouses, we don't know what we want. We don't even know who we are, right? Because we've never had the chance to figure out who we are. So then we go in looking for these spouses and we go with this beautiful tick list of what parents want or what family want or how they will fit in with our family rather than with us. It becomes a very toxic relationship because then these two people get together. They don't know how to be loved because they don't understand their love language. They've never worked on their love language. So then they have this marriage where they're just functional in this house with children, and then it becomes very toxic. The narcissistic traits come up. Adultery happens. You know, these are real life issues that actually go on, right? And
yeah.
the result is divorce, a failed marriage. Then you go on this whole life feeling like a failure, and who will marry you now that you're divorced? Another stigma, and the vicious cycle carries on. And it's a very horrible way of dealing and looking at things. And I think from a very young age, just coming back to your question, how I dealt with it, I just rebelled. I just knew for a fact I had a bigger dream, and whoever I married, I will feel sorry for them if it was a wrong guy that came into my life. And all the guys that rejected me, I look back and I think to myself, you actually did me a favor, because I have a very good instinct. Like if I can't, I will know what I can build on and what I can't build on. And alhamdulillah, like right now, I'm in a very nice position where I'm getting to know someone, and I understand why the mindset of an individual. For somebody like me, I'm serving a community where there is no representation of fitness in an industry, South Asian females in the fitness industry, and how important my work is. And that person has to support me. But first of all, I have to support who I am before anybody else can do that. And we feel this notion of feeling left out because we have a comparison disease. And that comparison disease is like the failure of all fails. Like the more we compare ourselves to the other person, our friends, our loved ones, we don't know what's going on behind their closed doors. We don't understand the dynamics. So the best advice I give to people is, if you are looking to get married, be sure to know who you are first. Know what you are putting into the relationship, or what you have to put on the table for them. What value have you got as a human being? Because relationships are not easy. Like when I learned how to love myself, it was hard. It was so hard. And then even now till today, I have these negative patterns that I built up over the years. Am I lovable? Can that person love me for all my flaws? Because in a relationship, mentally, we are all naked. You're so vulnerable, you're fragile. Can that person pick up their emotions and help you at the toughest times, in your darkest times? And a lot of us fail how to be there for one another. And this is why I think fitness, for me, has helped me develop myself. It has allowed me to become the best version of myself in every area of my life. And I'm still work in progress, don't get me wrong. Every day I'm learning something new about myself, and every day the clients teach me something different. Even talking about this is like a whole different topic. It's like becoming a relationship coach. And honestly, in my programs, I realized our relationship with ourselves has so much impact on our marriages and our relationships. And I see it on a day-to-day basis from females that are 30, 50, and how they function. And we all crave to be loved, but the best love you can give yourself is the one for yourself at the beginning.
That's beautiful. Honestly, Nazia, we are also happy to hear the journey you have made, and you've actually provided us with so much knowledge and pointers. I hope our audience can all benefit from that tonight. Shout out to everyone watching shout out to everyone watching globally. We've got Sammy watching in Pakistan. We've got Maria watching in Bradford, Jana in Bradford, and we've got Fran in the UK. Keep your comments coming. And remember the phone number 01924231083, where you can also be a part of tonight's conversation. Standard rates will apply, so please make sure you have your peers' permission. And as always, put your questions forward to Nazia live, and they can be anonymous if requested. You can also question Nazia on WhatsApp in confidence on 07950797017. If you have any questions in relation to what Nazia has said, or anything to do with body image and confidence, pass those through to us. Now, Nazia, we've actually uncovered so many stigmas in this conversation itself. We went from cultural pressures to divorce, and overall it all stems back to the main theme of the topic, which is body image and confidence. Now, I want to go back to that. And right now, in the current world we're in, we are more on the digital side of things. And I can't help but ignore the online dating game. So I'm not sure if you have any experience in it or your clients do, but how do you feel like that fits in with the whole topic of body image and confidence? Because when you online date, especially online dating for marriage specifically, sometimes we see the picture first. So it is image driven to an extent. And often I hear people saying, you know, I want to be attracted to the image of that person first, and then their personality is what will keep me. That is something I've heard so many times. And what is your take on all of that?
When I was young, I was a very superficial person, very shallow, and everything was.
Yeah, and those comments, by the way, have come from young people.
Pardon?
Those comments do often come from young people.
Yeah, and when I look back at it, and it's part of our journey as we age through our teens, our 20s, and our 30s. And because I was so much into my looks, you know, in a negative way. So how the person looked like was a big thing. But now when I look at how a person looks, there has to be an initial attraction. Of course there has to be, because you're going to be intimate with that person. So you shouldn't really deny yourself or feel ashamed of not feeling like that should be a criteria. It definitely should be a criteria. If you're waking up to next to somebody and you have to be intimate to someone, it's just human beings. It doesn't matter what kind of a human being you are, what race or ethnicity you are from. Everything is based on attraction. Even the animal kingdom is based on attraction, right? It is, and they all.
Yeah, no, that is philosophy.
Yeah. You know, the birds have a mating dance. You know, we don't have a mating dance, which is cool. We do it in different ways, and that is through single apps, dating apps. And I mean, there's good and bad in everything. There are people who can give somebody a chance and they look beyond the looks, and then there are people who are very fixated on this look. Unfortunately, we live in a very crazy world where everybody's very scared to show their real self. And females, you know, we do it the worst. The worst way we do it is through makeup. We have angles. When somebody's a bit overweight, we position ourselves in a certain way. We have catfish. And I guess for men as well, it's a big thing with the height and the way they look. And because fitness isn't such a priority, we're constantly hiding behind the screen as well. So who we are in real life, who we are on the screen, and who we are in real life person, it can be like meeting three different people, okay? And to understand and go beyond this, it's really, really difficult to gauge an understanding of what you like through a screen. And you have to give each other chances of meeting each other face to face and seeing if there's any chemistry. Because sometimes, if they're not what you're looking for, that chemistry can be amazing. It can be explosive. But because we live in a very shallow world, we always look for what's presented to us, and it's either a hit or miss from there. And I've been there. I've been at the receiving end because I didn't look a certain way, or my skin color was too dark. I get rejected instantly based on a picture. I get rejected based on my smile or my eye shape or my face shape. And it is so daunting because the moment you feel rejected, you don't feel good enough. And that's the end of it, isn't it, really?
Indeed. And for those that are going to on SingleMuslim.com, you have a lot to take into consideration. Thank you, Nazia. Now, we've spoken on body image and confidence, and we have spoken a lot about the perspective from women, young girls, females. Is there anything in regards to the perspective probably on men's body image and confidence that you would like to shed light on?
Yeah, I actually train men, and it's something that I don't really publicly show because they come to me in privacy and they don't want to be exposed or anything. And it's interesting to hear how men deal with body image issues, body image confidence, and how their self-esteem actually has, it impacts their self-esteem when it comes to the intimacy part of relationships. And biologically, men and the gender role of men, they're meant to be providers, they're meant to be leaders. And when it comes to the dating game, when they feel a bit out of shape because they don't feel confident, they don't look like a man, okay? These are their words. They don't look like a man, therefore she's not going to like me, or I'm too skinny. We have a clash of what we expect from both genders. And in the South Asian community, we have, it goes really deep to what our cultures are, what our parents expect. And men also have this pressure. They really do. And it's crazy to understand how their idea of love is sometimes destroyed within themselves because they're not nourishing their self-love. They're not accepting, they're not making an improvement in their mental health because they're not looking after their health and fitness. Some people actually really give up, which is quite sad. And it's like a constant, okay, you have to keep going. It is achievable. You have to believe in yourself. And the word self-belief comes into play so many times because we're conditioned to constantly live in this bubble of fear and self-doubt. Is she going to like me? Does she fancy me? Does she look at my belly? Does she want a six-pack? Does she want a guy with muscles? And it's all these images that we see constantly on social media, on magazines, even Hollywood actors, Bollywood actors. Bollywood is becoming a very, very bad place for us Asians now as well because they're catching up with this whole trend of, perfect, or looking at the way they're all training now out there. Like, get a life.
Now, Nadia, you spoke about beauty standards in, for example, South Asian culture when it comes to women. Are there any that exist for men, perhaps, or no?
100%. I did a live on this about body image within the South Asian community as well. And we speak a lot about female beauty standards. Men also struggle with this beauty standard or fitting into this beauty standard because they feel they have to look ripped. They have to have a six-pack. They have to be muscular. They have to be biceps coming out from here and a big chest and everything. And both genders are actually struggling because mainstream media has created this false idea of what beauty is. And the more we actually take control and charge of our own beauties, our flaws are the things that make us beautiful. Okay, the fact that we are all different is what makes us different. And I like to also say this as well. When it comes to self-love, when it comes to how we love and accept ourselves, it's all to do with the way we speak to ourselves, the language. Our language creates a feeling in our bodies. If I'm constantly thinking I'm fat and ugly, I'm going to create that uncertainty in my physical body. And the way I walk, the way I speak to people, everything's about relationships. From the time we get up, from the time we go to sleep, is how we are relating with people. How does our confidence show up in the conversations, in our work, in whatever we do? And then if our thoughts have a feeling in our body, then that actually shows in our actions and our behaviors. And people who are not confident about their image, they're always like shying away. They're always trying to cover themselves. So we need to work more on our confidence and our self-esteem and our self-worth actually as well.
Definitely. You raised some good pointers there. I hope everyone is taking notes. And it's so interesting to hear it on a perspective from the men's side of things because we don't hear that often in so many topics, be it mental health, body image, confidence. So I'm happy we got to cover that today as well.
Wait there.
Remember, you can also be a part of tonight's conversation. And you can just call in live on our number on 0192 4231 You can call in and speak to Nazia Khatun. Just take the opportunity, guys, because she's honestly got so much wisdom and knowledge and journeys to share with us tonight, which is absolutely beautiful and empowering. You can also leave us a comment on social media if you are watching us live on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and you can also tweet us either at SingleMuslim.com or British Muslim TV. Please do join in the conversation. It is really important to talk about these things that are not spoken about, and just to continue to these conversations is very important for us as a community. Now back to Nazia. I have a question for you, actually, a bit lighthearted, but it'll be interesting to get your perspective because everyone always has such different answers to this. What do you think? Do you think it is right to have a type? What is your idea of people who have a type? Does that limit them?
Is there a wrong answer to this? I think we all have a list, don't we, of what we want. We all do. I know I have books at home, notebooks, every year. This is the year I'm going to marry. He's going to be X, Y, and Z. And I think this year, on a very personal level, getting to know someone, I realized how the word love and getting to know someone has been totally turned around. It's taken a 360-degree turn in terms of what I understood what marriage, love, relationship was. We get this idea of what love is from television, from social media, these couples, these airy-fairy couples. It's not our idea of love. It's not our idea of a relationship. We got that image from people around us, from what we see. Having a type is okay, but you have to be flexible with this type as well. And sometimes we can have 10 things that we want in a spouse, and they may not have one thing. But if that one thing is at the top of your criteria, you should not lower your standard, in my opinion, okay? But if that one thing is something that you can work around, then we need to look out of the box to what the list is and try and see how we can understand that human being. Because we are human beings, and this is what I found, which was a revelation as well. We're nothing but a bubble of emotions. And it's having somebody be emotionally available. And I think this is so important as well. Too often we write down this list. He, she has to look this way. They have to be a size 10. They have to be big bum, big chest, whatever it is, a hijabi, or he has to have a six-pack. We forget that if somebody is not emotionally available for us, nothing else really matters. The looks fade. The size 10 doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter. All that kind of stuff. So when we're looking for that type, always put at the top someone who can be emotionally available for you, and that will actually take care of a lot of the other things on our the type list. And I say that from my own personal experience. And then when I see people who have good relationships as well, have a role model of who you can aspire to and actually follow as well for relationships.
You articulated that very well. That is a very important takeaway for us all. Now, Naza, your notebook, you do it every year. How's that going for you?
We actually gave up on looking for a spouse probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And I just worked on myself. And I used to get really, really upset and bitter with my parents and my family, with this constant like, oh, you're going to be 35, you're going to be 36, you haven't got children. And then when I least expected it, I met someone and it's like, oh, when I surrendered, actually, this is it.
What word to use?
Yeah, it took me so long, I think, and it upsets me because I spent a lot of my 20s fighting with my parents. And let's talk about the dynamics of your relationship with parents as well, because I know so many females and guys go through this. Our parents put so much pressure on us that we have to get married by a certain age. They don't listen to what we want. They just totally ignore that we have our own personalities, we have our own vision, our own dream. And when they try to project their traditional ways of living in a Western society, it doesn't work. And then it tarnishes the relationship between a child and a parent. I had a client, actually, and I'll give you this beautiful story. She was getting to know someone from the age of 19. It's taken her 10 years for her parents to come round to her, actually saying, yeah, you can, to give their blessing basically for her to get married. And the reason behind that was the mum was so angry with her daughter for not marrying her first cousin. And this client said, no, I'm not going to do it. And she goes, after 10 years, I feel like I've just built up a relationship with my mum. We live in the same house, we don't speak. And what shame it is. You lose a child because they're not living up to your expectations. And the older generation really need to understand that the times have moved on, that the tradition, there's outdated traditions. Sometimes culture gets in the way of figuring out who we want. Let a child figure out what they want. Stop getting involved in trying to find someone for them. It's good that they help us, they want the best for us, but we ultimately know what's best for us. Every child has this idea of what they want their marriage to be like. And I think the older generation they really enforce this idea of arranged marriages, and because it works for them, it should work for you. How dare you have a choice? How dare you think you can be picky? It's just too much sometimes.
Indeed, too much. And this has always been a hot topic in the community, which we will inshallah get back to in the upcoming weeks. If you guys have any more topics you do want us to cover, remember you can always hit us up on social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. WhatsApp us on 07950797017. And we still have loads of time left, so remember you can still call in live to the studio on 01924231083. Now, Nazia, you said some interesting points on the parent and children dynamic and that how that intervenes into relationships and the process of marriage, etc. And personally for you, how did you deal with that? And how would you advise the audience if someone does resonate with your story or the story of your client?
I think it takes a very strong personality and character to stand your ground, especially with our parents. We love them so much. We want to please them. You know, they did so much for us. So the last people we want to hurt is our parents. And I say this in the most loving way. In the Asian community and in the Chinese community, actually, suicide is the highest. So is mental health, depression, schizophrenic, and all these other subheading things that we go through as a mental health issues, right? And the reason why is because when a child is born, it's like it's seen as an exchange. I've given birth to you, I've looked after you, I've fed you, I educated you, I did everything for you. Now you listen to what I say to you and you keep me happy. That's the parents, that's how our dynamics work in the Chinese and the Asian culture. And sometimes it's really hard to deal with it because I see so many girls who give in. And I've got so many recurring clients that come back where they've been in domestic violent relationships. And this gets really, I'm not going to make it so intense, but it's a very delicate topic. Domestic violence in the South Asian community is diabolically high. It is something we need to do so much when it comes to healing those females that have gone through violence, physical violence, emotional violence, manipulative, all these categories of domestic violence happens. So when they give in to the parents and trying to please them, at the end, what happens is when they want a divorce, it comes with a lot of heartache. If you divorce them, you're not going to have the family there, or it comes with the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, who will marry you. It's like, it's so much there, isn't there, to talk about?
And so many umbrellas, not just one.
It opens up so many cans.
Yeah, literally.
And like when I have this one client who's working with me, she's a mother of two, she's divorced, she went through the domestic violence. Now she's helping those females understand the red flags early on, how to get out of that relationship when it doesn't serve them. So you have to stand your ground when it comes to your parents sometimes. And I didn't do it the best way. I did it through lots of arguments, and my parents are so loving. They gave me so much. They've been very liberal with me, and they've given us the best in life. But when it came to marriage, it was a very different pressure. So I didn't know how to deal with it. Nobody knows how to deal with it. And when I look back at it, I wish there were so many things I had done differently. And you do what you do when you are at certain stages, and you look back and you think, oh, I should have handled it a bit better. But I'm not the person. I wish I knew what I knew back then. And we change, and this is the beauty of life. We evolve. And there was one thing I wanted to point out as well. I had this one client where she said she had a proposal, and the guy had a physical. I'm laughing. I shouldn't. He had He had a physical defect, and her mum turned around and said, it doesn't matter even if his hand is missing. Nobody else is going to like you because you're so fat. And I thought, holy crap, because insecurities they stem from the house. When we use these kind of we're so blatantly outright with our words without taking in regard that this person has feelings, this child has emotions. And when we're talking about insecurities, when they start at home, our parents, I say our parents, I'm not talking about every single parent out there. When you tell your child, oh, be careful what you're eating, those can actually trigger an eating disorder. When you're telling or comparing each child around you, we need to be careful. We need to be mindful of using the word healthy. Okay, you're looking a bit healthy, or maybe you should cut down on certain things. We need to address where these insecurities start from, and then build that whole relationship of who we are and then how we relate with one another as well.
Indeed, I'm so happy you did mention where like the root of it comes from, because there has been another studies by Women's Health, and it found that most young girls growing up, they're praised more on their looks and appearance rather than their thoughts or what they've achieved. And you know what, we can all take this lesson forward, that you know, when we do compliment the next person, are we complimenting them because they look good, or are we complimenting them for their inner self? So it is always interesting to look at the root of the problem. Are we complicit in that problem? Because like you mentioned earlier on, Nazia, we can be our own enemies. So that is a very interesting point, and I'm so glad you raised that.
Yeah.
In terms of going forward with body image and confidence, of course, you have said throughout the show it is about inner work and us doing the work for ourselves. How do you see in terms of society? Is it something we have to do as a society?
Yeah, I think if we just took ownership of who we are, in a way where we educate ourselves about who we want to become. Because in the program, the Fitness Reborn program, it's a self-healing discovery process. And each module is broken down into recreating, rebuilding, and reborn. And the whole idea is taking that person's blueprint and putting a new one. And the fitness is, if you can do 10 more reps here, imagine who you can become outside in every other department of your life. It's a whole holistic approach. You work on yourself, understand who you are, accept who you are, define your own standard of what beauty is. Be okay with putting on a little bit of weight. And you know, if we relate it back to lockdown, it's already started. People have put on weight, and then somebody's making a remark, and then it's just like a spiral of emotions because people are in isolation. They're like surrounded by hardly anyone. They're not doing their everyday chores. Learn how to be kind to other people. Learn how to be kind to yourself. Like looking a certain way and complimenting on somebody's looks because they've lost weight or they've gained weight is not helping anyone. And I keep talking about weight. People who have what do you call it, when they're on the bigger size of it. People who are skinny also have self-image issues as well. When you call, oh, you're so skinny or you're so slim, it's like you're telling them something that they may not be happy with. So we need to be very, very mindful of how we are addressing ourselves first, and then just think, okay, if somebody is saying, oh, I look skinny, call them out on it. Tell them it's true. You have to have your boundaries. And
yeah, definitely.
And this is why I keep telling people, make time for yourself, make time for your fitness, make time for your health. Your well-being is the most important thing that you have. Your body is the first home that you live in, and we have a right to give our body what it deserves, because like I always said this in one of my talks as well, we came into this world and this is a gift that we have. This is the body, the home, the first home we will ever live in. And when we go back, when we pass away, we have to be called up again, right, in the hereafter. Your body's going to talk for, whatever. How did you look after it? Did you nourish it? And just to finish off, I had a client, her name was Zaf. Zaf came to me where she was super morbidly obese, with 2 children, having gone through a divorce. She couldn't even pray because she was so overweight. If you relate your health and fitness then back to a religion, Islam, you're trying to bow down in prayer. If you can't even do the basics of bowing down in prayer, there's something that you have missed fundamentally, which is not looking after your body. You've done a disservice by overeating. You've done a disservice by not looking after your portion control or exercising. And I know it's I'm saying this because I'm in the industry. I know how hard it is because we have to work through the emotions. We need to heal. We need to work on people's trauma, what's going on. And everything that we're going through, it is a past event. It is a trauma. And the program helps people understand their trauma, process it, and also work on healing it. And I think it's a beautiful journey that a lot of girls go through.
Indeed, it is a very beautiful journey. Thank you so much for joining us, Nastia. Honestly, you've given us so many angles and dimensions to look at. Now, if you can just give me one sentence of your biggest hit and leave our audience with something, what is that one sentence?
My biggest what, sorry?
So some tip. So your biggest tip in one sentence. We've only got 60 seconds left. I know you've got this.
I am enough. Repeat to yourself, I am enough. I love myself. I am strong. The way we rewire our brain is through affirmations and the repetition. And you owe it to yourself to love yourself. And this is the biggest ever gift you can give yourself as well.
That was very wise and very beautiful. Thank you so much. Honestly, this whole show has carried beauty. You've honestly given us so much to take back with us tonight. So thank you so much, Nazia. Remember, you can also be part of tonight's conversation next week. We'll be discovering new themes, and you are more than invited to be a part of the conversation. Just to also remind you, you can also keep us on your social media timelines by following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and that's British Muslim TV and SingleMuslim.com. Until next time, salam alaikum. Bye.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.